Hello YouTube, this is Crosscheck and welcome once again to another very exciting video. Today I'm going to be upgrading my PC. All of this, of course, just to get ready for the new flight simulator. Hopefully this will be able to run the simulator at least smoothly. I am really not aiming for ultra quality, but at least hopefully high, and yeah, smoothness. I think that's all we want. Okay, so my current specs: i7-4770, quite old now, 7-year-old processor, 4 cores, 8 threads. Yeah, not many, and the base frequency 3.4, max turbo frequency 3.9. Yeah, it does all right on single thread applications. Now multi-thread, yeah, at this time and age, not too good. I got 16 gigabytes of RAM, and yeah, I think that's the information that matters. I also have a 1080, a GTX 1080, which I think is pretty decent. I don't think it needs to be upgraded. So what I'm going to be upgrading is the processor. Obviously, when I switch the processor, I need a new motherboard. In this case, I need to upgrade the RAM also because I'm switching from DDR3 up to DDR4. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about the new hardware in a little bit. Let's see how my current hardware fends off against X-Plane 11. And also I want to mention, my screen is a 1440, not 1080. I think 1440 is the sweet spot. It looks absolutely fantastic and it doesn't use as many resources as you would require playing on 4K. Okay, so here we are at the menu. We're gonna go to Los Angeles International, 6 a.m. and you could see I was around 230 frames per second in the menu, so if that means anything, great. Okay, here we are at runway 07, it seems. Frames per second, 20. Yeah, a little bit crappy. The airport is in front of us, as we can see, so that's gonna be the intense view. As we can see, as I'm rotating, I made it all the way to 35 frames per second. That's because behind me, there's no much geometry, so it improves on frames. Also, when you look down in the cockpit, your frames will increase once you look outside your cockpit and you're looking into wherever there is more geometry. It's gonna will start to struggle. Something really interesting, my GPU right now it's 34% maximum. That is pretty pathetic. My CPU 20-30% as well, pretty pathetic. There is not a single core that is being used to its maximum potential, but all throughout the cores they are being used reasonably, I guess. That's all right. Regarding RAM, 8 gigabytes, 9 gigabytes, it makes me think that 16 gigabytes is more than enough for X-Plane 11, it seems, at least in this scenario in particular in Los Angeles. Up here in the air, we are on the 20s and in the frames. It's doable, but yeah, if you want to stream or something like that, you're gonna get into trouble, and the geometry can get a little more interesting, and dropping below the 20s or dropping below the 15s, that is where it kind of starts being unplayable. As long as it is around 20 or above, it's manageable. I mean, that's the way it is with X-Plane. It's just very intensive, and for some reason it just doesn't utilize the resources as well as it should. It is kinda pathetic. Let's try and contrast this performance with DCS now. Okay, so here we're on DCS. These are my current configuration. Nothing special, but off the bat we can see the GPU is being now utilized. It's reaching 70%, which is pretty reasonable. And we can see pretty good results with the frames per second. I mean, we are at 65, something like that. That is really good. Looking at some aircraft in the air, it dipped a little bit, like 10 frames. We are around 55, but still the GPU being utilized really nicely, 70%, 80%. That is great. We are now taxiing. We dipped to the 40s on the frames per second, but still, comparing with X-Plane 11, this is very reasonable. The CPU, the usage is quite low, around 30%, but we can see that a single core is being utilized more. The last core, the 8 or the thread, the number 8 thread, it is on the 70%, 80% sometimes. So that one is being utilized the most. And the other side are kind of following. The number 1 thread is at around 40, and then the others 30s, 20s. So yeah, the load is going mostly into the last thread number 8. Now regarding the RAM, we can see we are almost at 14 gigabytes. So obviously DCS also needs more RAM. But at the moment 16 gigabytes seems to be pretty good. As we can see, the frame rate is pretty reasonable. I'm actually really happy with the actual frame rate. Okay, so the new hardware I'm gonna be getting is gonna be the Ryzen 9, the 3900X, which is actually really nice and a really good value. It looks pretty fantastic. I mean, just the base clock is higher. It is a base clock of 3.8 against my other one, which is 3.4, and it is able to reach a max boost clock of up to 4.6, which is much better than the 3.9 max turbo frequency found in the i7 4770. If that wasn't an upgrade enough, the number of CPUs, well, it launches all the way from 4 to 12, and yeah, threads, instead of having 8, I have 24 threads. So that is really exciting. So okay, this is my old computer. It is quite dusty, if I am going to be honest. It's been a while since I haven't cleaned it, sadly. So yeah, I'm gonna have to take off a couple of parts and do a little bit of cleaning. Let's make the best out of having to remove the motherboard. And here she be, that old piece of junk. I love her, but yeah, it's time to go. This is a new motherboard, looking pretty good. Yeah, there we go, nice and shiny. Now this is the part where I need to be the most careful, making sure the processor is well placed. Everything seems in order, there is no jiggle. Let's close it up. Now the RAM, yeah, 32, I think it is a very good number. I think it's also the sweet spot for the simulators. If you're planning on jumping into simulators, 32 gigabytes is a really good number. No less than 16, most definitely. Okay, so now all the RAM is in place, the processor is in place. Here we have the air cooler, the one that actually comes with the processor, and for being free, I'm gonna be honest, it is really good. I'm not going to be overclocking this processor with the stock fan, but I am getting a Dark Rock Pro 4, and when I install that one, I'm gonna be tweaking the processor a little bit. Okay, now everything seems to be in order. This is the moment of truth. Let's see if everything works correctly. And yeah, we got it. And here we are in the easy mode of the BIOS. As you can see, the DRAM status is on default at 2400. I'm switching to the XMP profile number 1, which should push it to 3200. But sadly, I did some tests and I was having some trouble with some games. They were crashing. So I removed the profile and everything is a-okay now. I'm gonna be playing around with that on the future. I'll try to get that correctly done manually. Obviously the profile isn't working in my computer, in my case. If you are doing this, it may work for you, but if you're experiencing crashes and you have a XMP profile, you may want to revert that. Anyway, yeah, completely fresh install of Windows, completely fresh install of the simulator. Let's jump right in, and holy cow, we do have a lot of more threads. That is so awesome. And right off the bat, just being on the menu, we can see an increase from 220 frames per second all the way to 380. So most definitely something is going on. All right, so let's see. Clearly there is one CPU thread that is doing all of the work. We can see it is the thread number 15. It is pretty much at 100% all of the time, so it is doing all of the load. There is no other thread barely doing anything. The most they do is like 15%. In total, the CPU is being utilized at 8%, 9% maybe. What is really interesting is that the GPU, we do have an increase of its usage. It's going from 34 to 40 something, and on the frame rate right now, it is much better. From 19 we are stable at 26, 27. That is like a 35% increase in the frames. That is just absolutely insane. That is good stuff. Just imagine if I upgrade my video card now. And yeah, this is actually pretty good. I am over 40 frames per second. It may deep. Right now it's deeping to around 30 something. As you can see right here on the difference from 23 to 40, I mean, pretty much doubling up on the frame rate in this area. That is really something. And as you can see, that the GPU is pretty much doing double the work, and it shows. So obviously there was a bottleneck over there with the CPU or with the RAM, but yeah, we got through that. Now let's go into DCS. I think that's gonna be really interesting. Yep, there we are, about 20 frames per second more. That is pretty cool. Pretty cool. From 65 to 85, I mean, I was already happy with the frame rate. Most definitely I am much happier right now. Now, what is interesting is that the thread, the other one that was being really intensely used, was number 15. Right now, it seems to be switching between the 24th and the 15th, but I see a little bit of more movement around other threads. I think it is really interesting. The GPU on DCS, I love that DCS is really taking advantage of my GPU, 97%. There was obviously a bottleneck, as mentioned before, with the other processor, because last time we were using the GPU at around 80% of its capacity. Right now we are pushing its limits, and it shows. You can see more frame rate. Obviously something really nice is going on, and the threads, it is really interesting. It seems that DCS is doing a pretty reasonable job with multi-threads. That is really something. I mean, obviously the workload is heavier on a single or in a pair of threads, but there is a lot of more movement going on. Clearly, X-Plane is not very good at utilizing modern resources. That is kind of a shame. Yeah, flying around and being around the 80 frames per second mark at 1440p, I think it's really good. Really good. I think it's time to try out the Microsoft Flight Simulator Alpha, and let's see what frame rate we can get there. I think this is gonna be really interesting. All right, here we go. Okay, so obviously I cannot show you guys what the performance is with the new hardware, but what I can tell you is that I am much happier with the experience than I previously was having. Can't really comment on that, can't give any details, so yeah, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, I think it is very decent hardware. My expectations is that for the release version of Flight Simulator, this hardware should be able to pull it off decently, I hope. Anyway, yeah, if you're thinking on upgrading or something like that, definitely upgrading processor right now is a really good time. I do recommend the Ryzen 3000 series. I think they are absolutely amazing, great value, great performance. I do recommend, most definitely. Regarding RAM, yeah, I'd go for at least 32 gigabytes. The nice thing is that they are really not that expensive, not as expensive as they were a couple of years ago, most definitely. So it's an easy upgrade, and yeah, it's really nice. Regarding graphics card, I would wait right now, at least until March, where there is gonna be a conference by NVIDIA announcing its Ampere graphics card. supposedly those are gonna be jaw-dropping, and even if you're not gonna be getting one of those, the prices for the rest of the video cards should drop a little bit. You should be getting better deals anyway. But yeah, I would wait regarding the graphics card, but regarding RAM or processor, it is a very nice time. It is a nice time to upgrade. I am really happy with my upgrade. I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, happy flying, cross checkout.